Hi.
How's it going, Miss Honorée?
Great. So good. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
It's
Gosh,
like
is
we
it?
were just here.
Yeah, I know. It's
We're just
insane. It feels like every week is just like on fast gas. It's like we're
Yeah.
rolling on nitrous oxide here.
Yes.
Um, we have a fun topic today. I don't
Yeah.
know how many people absolutely love webinars. I'm a big fan of webinars when they're done right. I'm not a big fan of just like continuous sales pitch webinars, which
Right.
you and I both avoid like the plague.
Yes.
And
I want
we
substance. I
yes.
want to feel like my time was well spent, even if I don't feel like I want to or could afford to take someone's webinar in that moment. I want to walk away with valuable content that I can use immediately.
Right. Right. Yeah, this is a big thing, right? Like you need to have some type of like return on investment within a decent amount of time.
Yep.
And I feel like the webinars that are just there to pitch on products just don't deliver value until you get to the point of purchase on a product, and that's not what you're there for.
Right. It's missing the mark. And if I have learned anything about business in all of my years, it's that time, timing is everything. Right? How many times has someone reached out to me and said, "I saved this email that you wrote to me 3 years ago, and now I'm ready." And if it had just been a transaction, it would never have happened, right? So I think webinars are an opportunity to build a relationship with someone,
Mm,
right? And so and understand that timing is everything. And sometimes people are just not ready right then
right.
to buy. And being patient is a really good quality in a business person, positive, patient, and persistent.
Absolutely. Oh, look, we got Jen Pisano from it.
Hello from Atlanta.
Hello, Atlanta.
Hello, Atlanta. Hello, Jen Pisano.
I feel like I should have headphones on and I should be talking to like Atlanta, come in. Atlanta, how are you?
Come in, Atlanta.
How do you hear me, Atlanta? Lima Charlie. All right. So before I get off of my weird military stuff, um, so the cool thing about we're in particular talking about like evergreen webinars can be really powerful, right? Because it's not just let's do a webinar and then we're done. It's like a thing that you can roll into your business for lead gen, for helping
Yes.
clients, for establishing know, like, and trust factor with people that are new to your audience, all the stuff.
And I used to do webinars differently than I do now because of you making the suggestion that a webinar I had done in the past could be put in my LMS, my learning management system, specifically Thinkific, which is our chosen um, place to hang our hat. And so I took an old webinar, building a 7-figure coaching business, and it's for coaches. And I put it in my Thinkific platform. And darn if you weren't right, not a shocker, but pleasantly surprised that you were right, that people do discover that webinar and listen and get into my ecosystem, and then sometimes occasionally buy the course from the webinar that I did a long time ago that's still providing value, which is really cool. And so it's completely changed my thought process around I have to do webinars all the time. I have to do the same webinar all the time. I have to bug my list about the same webinar all the time. I can check off my box of being continuously creative by creating new valuable content and then making it evergreen so that when the time is right, both to watch it and also to perhaps engage with me in a bigger way, it's ready. That I get lucky, right? Preparation meets opportunity.
Right.
Hello, Wayne. Nice to see you this week as
Yes. Yeah, this is our random LinkedIn user.
well.
I love how LinkedIn does this. They won't put the profile sometimes on people, but I
Right.
can see I
We
keep
know who you are.
yeah, we know who you are.
Who you
I
are.
keep LinkedIn open while we're broadcasting so that I can see your comments specifically.
Right.
Wayne, thanks for joining us. Are you still in Egypt, Wayne? Wayne, are you still in Egypt? Let us know.
Come in Egypt.
Yeah, come in Egypt.
Come in Egypt.
And one day I'm going to figure out exactly how I keep messing up these buttons on the chat. But hey, it'll work. Okay. Oh, we've got Charlie Marino. Pops is here.
Oh.
Yep.
Webinars. So Charlie, oh gosh, Mr. Marino, my apologies for being so informal. Please tell me how you experienced the webinar yesterday, because you were on the webinar yesterday. So give me some feedback.
Yeah. Go ahead and type up some feedback if you want.
Honest 5-star reviews, please.
Yeah. So for those that weren't on the webinar, Honorée just did a webinar yesterday.
I did a webinar yesterday. Yeah. Sell more books starting today, which was my thought process around what authors could do to sell more books immediately. Because there's like the short term, like I want the hit right now, and then also talking about book marketing mastery, right? Which is the course that may or may not be the right fit for the person watching it, right? The right fit yesterday, or the right fit today, or the right fit in the near future.
Right. Yeah. And for those that aren't familiar with the way Honorée built this as an evergreen, because you're probably wondering, well, if you did a live webinar, how's that an evergreen?
Yeah.
Once you record that webinar, you can repurpose that on your learning management system. Like Honorée was saying, we use Thinkific. You could put it in Thinkific. If you use Kajabi, Teachable, Blackboard, Canvas, Matrix, Indie, any of them, you can repurpose that video from that webinar as a standalone product in your learning management system. You can offer it as a free access course, or you can provide it as a low fee course. You can use that same location to draw people that were original invitees to the webinar to now go to your website if they want to watch the replay, enroll there, and have access. Or you can provide them with access in the LMS when you load the video. But the big thing is to attract new people. So I usually list, if I keep it as a free webinar replay, I'll list it as a free session on my learning management system. So visitors to the site under free resources can see that. And I also put it in my course list so that anyone who's looking through my products can see that there's a free course that they can attend. Now, this benefits your course business, if you will, in several ways, but two in particular that I'll mention now. And one is it helps establish some more interaction and contact with potential leads. So there's some know, like, and trust. They can see how you're interacting with other people, especially in public. That's really important for understanding whether this person treats people like the way you want them to. You get, how you can expect to interact with them. Also, how much are they willing to share and teach people in the moment when they're doing a webinar, which is not, normally a paid event. And additionally, you now have a new lead capture device in your system. So anytime someone enrolls in that who wasn't a part of the webinar audience, they are going to exchange their email address and their name in some way, shape, or form, first and last, or just first. It's up to you. And they're going to do that. Now this person's in your ecosystem. And Honorée, you and I both do this. We invite them to our newsletter as soon as they are in, because we want them to be able to continue achieving that type of value.
Right. Yes. I have a daily newsletter, and it's fun to watch the people subscribe to the newsletter and then get enrolled in it. Enrolled in the content, right? Like finding value in the content and staying, and then referring new people to me. Because I always ask, like, how did you find me? And it's always by referral, right? The number one way people discover a book is by referral. The number one way people discover a person, I think, is by referral, right? There's some accidental Facebook recommended you to me, which I'm suspicious of for obvious reasons, but they're, generally it's a person who is making the referral. So, I love this idea. The minute I heard it, to have an evergreen webinar, and immediately went into my recordings and was like, what do I have that I could put up there? And it's been great, because it's not been a lot of people, it's not been a lot of sales but 100% of nothing is nothing.
Yep.
If I had not done it, I would have nothing. And I just decided that this webinar and all the ones I do in the future, I'm just going to do the webinar one time, which allows me to do more teaching, which I really love, which allows more people to learn whether or not they purchase my courses. But I would imagine I'm going to look back on this decision and be really glad I made it, like doing courses in the first place, like writing books in the first place. I'm really glad that I've done all of those things because I can look back and say, wow, I've impacted these lives. I've made this much money. I've right. So I think I'm going to look back on this in 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, and be really, future Honorée is going to be really proud of today Honorée because she's crushing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you mentioned the fact that you like to teach and you get to move from topic to topic because once you've taught it and you record it and you put it in your LMS, you now have a good justification for moving forward to a new topic that just continues to provide additional value to your audience. And I think one of the cool ways to do this is you can roll that webinar into a cycle, right? So your evergreen webinar, after you've done it live and you record it and you post it in your learning management system, you can put some content in the learning management system, like discount codes on other products, things like that, to help just incentivize people who have come there and exchange their information to attend the webinar replay. But now you could put that on like a cycle in your distro throughout the year. So maybe you put a note in the system that 4 months from now, I'm going to send out a newsletter, and I'm going to embed a link to this webinar in the bottom of that newsletter with a nice little paragraph about what everyone who attended live was able to learn. And hopefully it'll help some people that maybe weren't in my ecosystem even when that webinar was recorded. They don't even know it exists. They've never seen. And then now they're in your email newsletter through some other way. Maybe they bought a book. Maybe they bought a different course. Maybe they bought one of your other companion products, like a workbook or whatever the case is. They came into your world after all that happened, and they just haven't seen this free resource on your website. That's like something easy to drop into a newsletter in a couple months and say, oh, hey, and by the way, on this topic, because you might like end up drafting a newsletter about the same topic, I have a free webinar. It's on my site. Go check it out. And half those people that are going to see that or more are already they're already signed up. They're already on your list. They're already in and they're like, oh, this is cool. This is something new I didn't know about, right? You never know who it's going to be fresh for.
Well, and how many times have you read something and I have books that I've read 5 and 6 times and I've highlighted something and I come back and go, I've never read this before. I don't know who highlighted this. I don't know who had my book without my knowledge. Yeah. Right. And so again, timing is everything, because you're going to read something or see something for the first time, but maybe actually see it, right? You've seen it for the 5th time, but you're actually seeing it. And it's something that you've been thinking, oh gosh, I do want to do an evergreen webinar, or I do want to build a 7-figure coaching business, or I am ready to write my book. I love what Charlie said. Thank you for your kind words. He says, I'm a detail nut and like to go into every venture with eyes wide open. I don't want to start something if I don't think it's the right time for me. I never start something I cannot complete. So obviously he's kind of making my point. Thank you, Charlie. The timing is everything. And so having your content out there and available to people so that they can get it right when they need it most is awesome, which is why a book is awesome. Right, Lucas, because a book is available all the time. So this is taking a different approach to having evergreen content.
Right. Well, and the book is so much more accessible by price usually too. And I think that's one of the reasons why the webinar is really complementary to the book, because one of the powers of the book is that accessibility, the fact that it can reach so many people that don't have financial barriers to entry into more expensive areas of your product line, and having that complimentary webinar that goes right along with it or is related to topics in the book. It's just like a hand in glove kind of thing. It's fantastic. So if you're the person hosting the webinar and you're kind of like reeling from all this going, oh, wait, there's like all these things I can do with it. Does it change the way I approach my webinar? I would just say you just think about what you're going to do with the product a little differently, but it doesn't really change the format of the webinar whatsoever, unless you're kind of new to webinars and you just haven't had a format before, you can kind of create your method knowing that you're going to have this in the future. One thing that Honorée and I have talked about, though, with formatting the webinars, is just making sure that whatever you promise in the webinar that you then post on your website, like people are going to expect that to happen. So if you're going to make a special offer that's timely and has a limitation on it, if you're going to make that kind of offer in your webinar, make it live, but make sure you potentially eliminate that segment of the webinar from your Evergreen product on your website, on your LMS, your learning management system.
Right.
This way people don't go, well, I don't see where I can get that. Right? And you end up with a frustrated or confused person.
So I don't want that for sure.
So we have a question here. I think this is from Jen. By the way, if you're on Facebook, if you could just like put your name in the comment in the beginning or the end of the comment with like a dash Jen or whatever, it would help us out because we can't see who the Facebook users are.
We want to know who you are.
Yeah, I want to know who you are. So if this is Jen, the question is, what's the recipe for a successful webinar? Honorée, you've done quite a bit of these. You want to weigh in first?
Well, I'm not sure I know.
Yes, you do.
But well, so I know people who have wildly successful webinars that are selling during the webinar, immediately after the webinar, and continuously, right? And I haven't necessarily cracked that. So just, I'll share with you what I do, what I've been taught to do. And then I think really you have to find your own rhythm and your own process. So I was taught to introduce yourself at the beginning of the webinar. So a lot of people that came yesterday to that webinar were new to me. I did not recognize names, and I'm really tuned into my email list and who's on my email list. And it's big in terms of thousands of people where I don't know all of the names, but I kind of pay attention to how many Jens, how many Joes, how many Davids, like, so I pay attention to names, probably because I have an interesting name. So I pay attention to interesting names, and I'm always curious where people come from. To give people context to the very first things, like, why should someone listen to you? Why do you have credibility? Because anyone can say I'm an expert at book publishing, courses, rocks, flowers, trees, whatever. Anyone can say I'm an expert at it. And so contextualizing yourself, regardless of humility, Dr. Lucas, right, is really helpful. It's helpful for people to know that you have real credentials, not just, I've decided I have credentials today, credentials. So I make a stop at how many books I've written and how many people I've helped write books and those sorts of things. Not because I want to talk about myself, because I really don't. It's because when I say the numbers, they are, you can't argue with them. They exist. You go, oh, have you really done that? And you Google. You go, oh, actually, yes, right? You do your G search to back up your research. So that's the first thing. And then you have a promise. When you write the landing page copy for your webinar, it's like, what are you promising to do? What's happening in terms of the teaching? So I said I was going to teach 3 things yesterday in the webinar. And so I start with, in order to get you here, I promised to teach you 3 things. And I think that's a component of a successful webinar and I've attended a lot of webinars who don't meet this acid test, right? Which is, well, they promised to teach me something, but they taught me just enough that now I'm frustrated. Right now I'm like, well, now I don't know enough to go take action. So I eliminate that and I teach enough so that someone can go and take action, whether they ever give me $1, whether I ever hear from them or me here, or they hear from me again ever. They can take what I gave them and put it into action. I don't talk in theory. I talk in practical action steps. So I generally will teach 3 things in a webinar, but you can teach 5, you can teach 75. It's totally up to you, the instructor. I generally under promise and over deliver. So yesterday I said I was going to teach 3 ways that you could sell more books today. And I taught 6 because I couldn't choose. I was like, which 3 are the most important? They're all important. So I just did all 6 because that's how I want to be perceived as someone who under promises and over delivers. And then you can highlight your course. So what is it that they could buy? This is what they get for free. What is it? What do they get if they buy something? So in that process, I was selling a course, Book Marketing Mastery. And so I did the teaching, and then I said, okay, are you ready to go? Now, do you know everything you need to know about book marketing? Do you feel like now you are an expert book marketer? Well, I don't think so. Right. I think that this is just the tip of the iceberg. And I've taught you how to think about book marketing. And I've given you 6 ideas that should help you to fall in love with book marketing, which are the 3 things I wanted to teach. But are you ready to go now? Do you feel like, okay, I can sell my own 4.5 million books? Probably not. And so the answer to that is that you can buy this course, which will give you a line of sight to anything that you want to do with your book in terms of book sales, right? And so then there are 2 more elements of it. So once you've done the teaching and you've done the, hey, here's the course that you could buy if you wanted to, then you can do a Q&A, like take all the questions. Some people do, some people don't. I love the Q&A because it really makes me clear on where I could add more content or other, because if I get the same questions over and over, it's like, okay, this is a common question. I want to answer this in my newsletter. I want to add it to the course, something like that. And then finally, a giveaway. So at the very end, I'm giving away valuable resources that have cost me either thousands of dollars to obtain or thousands of hours and dollars to obtain, or both. And then that's wrapping it up. And then there's a thank you page. And then that's where they can buy their bonuses. And then the link to where they can buy the course if they want to buy the course. And I'm thanking people. And then I'm wrapping up. So it usually takes about an hour. I'm pretty chatty, as you have probably figured out. And so I tend to be a long talker. And so that's my format for having a successful webinar. And then as far as the post webinar, I'm sending an email to everyone who missed it, because it is during the workday. A lot of people are still engaged with something during the day. And so you do want to provide a replay, access to a replay, perhaps a special price for attending the webinar, for purchasing the course. And then if it's Evergreen, then now this one is for me, then now I can offer it to anyone who ever wants it from now until the end of time.
Right. First of all, I agree 100% with everything that you said, Honorée. And I just want to put a couple of just highlights on a couple of points that are a little less tactical than what you covered. You covered in really good detail a lot of the really important parts of executing. I think when it comes down to a few things that make it work for the client, you got to make it easy for them to access. If they have a hard time logging in, I don't care if this thing, and most of them are free, but if they can't get in, they're only going to try so hard before they just drop.
That's right. That's right. The same way.
Yeah. You need to communicate the day of the event. A lot of people do a really good job of communicating, the days leading up to, but then they don't say anything that morning or that afternoon or within the hour or whatever the case is.
I'm going live soon is one of my favorite emails, right? I'm coming. Yeah.
And you have to understand the systems that you're using for these things sometimes have that capability built into them, and sometimes they don't. And so you just have to know which is which, because for example, these live streams, we're going live on several different social media platforms, and some of those platforms will remind people that frequently view them that, hey, Honorée or Lucas, or Honorée and Lucas, if you're following both of us, are going live in an hour. You'll get a notification like that. Same thing happens with different systems that you have people enroll in. So if someone's enrolling through Zoom or enrolling through some other type of automated scheduling video production tool, then you might be able to build that right into the sequence, so you don't have to worry about it. Because if you're like me, the last thing you're thinking of that morning is I have to email this whole list. I love having that automated for me. And this one, this one can get a little tricky, but it's absolutely important that you do this. Honorée spent a lot of time building up the appropriate audience, the people that follow her and that come into her ecosystem, know exactly what she does, or at least know enough about who she is and what she does to know why they're there, right? They know why they're there. they're interested in books, whether it be publishing, indie or traditional or whatever. They're writers and they're interested in books. Almost nothing could be more detrimental to your success with your webinar than choosing the wrong audience. So make sure that you're marketing to the right people, that you have the right platforms, pushing it out to the right people. And again, that the marketing that goes into and the promotions before the event aren't like super cheesy, that they feel and sound like the webinar is going to, so that people will be attracted to it and you've got some message consistency. One last thing. I deal with this all the time with course creators. I've had course creators come to me and I help them build something and I say, all right, let's talk about your marketing. You're going to include a webinar in your marketing campaign. And they're like, okay. I get several types of responses. Well, I've done webinars before and they don't work. No, they do. I could point you to tons of people who literally eat, sleep, and breathe having a consistent webinar in their cycle, because that's what feeds their business. There are people who have outsourced the webinar hosting and execution to someone else, and then that person doesn't deliver, and they think it's the webinar's fault when actually it was a bad partnership.
Yeah.
And then one other thing to go along with that point, your expectation about offering a free session to someone, if it's attached to a product at the end that is a very expensive product, then your expectation should be that you may have some success, you may have no one sign up. Just remember, you're offering a free product to the general public oftentimes. And if you have a $10,000 offer at the end, you're probably not going to, if 50 people sign up, you're probably not going to have 50 people buy a $30,000 product. That's what I'm saying.
No, it's the higher the ticket price, the longer the thought process, especially if they don't know you. So like new relationship, high ticket, thought, time, right? Time, again, timing is everything. The amount of time it takes for someone to make a decision to buy now is important. I love that Harvey Veenstra. Am I saying that right? Harvey Veenstra. A notification is why I'm here now. I think that's fantastic. Nice to meet you, Harvey.
Yeah, Harvey, thanks for coming. He's a maintenance program manager. And so he is killing it out there, making sure that
FOL,
all the stuff is running. What's that?
He's an FOL, friend of Lucas.
Yes, he's in the Lucas network.
I like it. I love what Charlie said about webinars. I sign up for many webinars. If I log in, it is an immediate sales pitch, and 15 minutes in, it continues. I hit the exit button. I think a successful webinar is to let people know who you are, what you do, and then have a discussion, sharing experiences and being honest. From there, people will go to your websites, look you up, and follow you. All of that agreed. And then thank you for this, Charlie. You did not rush to get off the screen yesterday. I didn't. I block out the hour after my webinar just in case there are lots of Q&A time, because some people are shy at first. They want to let everybody else go. And only when I stare at the screen for 5 seconds will they go, well, I might have a question, right? So I'm looking for the reluctant question askers who have great questions. And so I don't rush to get off the screen. I don't have something else I have to do in 10 minutes, right? Or in 5 minutes.
All right.
So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yes.
And then we have Jen, our magical live assistant. Thank you.
Jen is every week consistently producing the lists of great things that we are just spouting.
Yeah. Thank you, Jen. You're magical. I think that's what the stars are. It's like, it's magical Jen right at the bottom.
She is magical Jen. Yeah. For those that don't know who Jen is, we're talking about Jen Pisano. Yeah. She's just a tremendously awesome human being. She is so much fun to work with and talk with. I encourage you to connect with her. She's very active on Facebook. So make sure if you're viewing this on Facebook, or if you have a Facebook account, you look up Jen Pisano, and that's Piceno, and get to hanging out with Jen, because she is just a tremendous person to have in your world.
That's correct.
Thanks for the list, Jen.
Jen.
So, Honorée, we've got about 10 to 13 minutes here before we have to burn the place down on the way out. But I think part of the part of the problem with webinars being successful, and I'm interested to get your perspective on this, is that if you're really going to make the webinar a significant part of your marketing campaign for an evergreen product, like a book or a course that lasts on and on and on, then you have to have consistency in the webinar development and delivery, meaning you can't just put a webinar out once every 2 years and be upset when you don't get a lot of signups, or if you don't get a lot of return on that. It's kind of like anything else, like your email list and everything. And I'm probably guilty party number one for not being as consistent with that as I want to be.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about how that's worked for you?
Well, so I know some people beat the drum of have webinars all the time, like have a webinar every single month. And I did that for a while. And without question, it was very successful. I would get consistent course sales and engagement and newsletter signups and all the things. But then I noticed I was getting some diminishing return situations happening where less and less people were coming, and I was selling to less people. Now, this could be operator error, right? It could be that if I were consistently growing my list exponentially, then, as some people weren't tuning in, new people were. So I'll take ownership of that. But I have now found that if I do them a few times a year, that's better, because then my list isn't fatigued. I'm not getting the people that are unsubscribing because it's like, oh, another webinar. And also, I've stopped doing only a webinar email sequence. In other words, I'm mentioning my webinar in my emails, my daily emails, but I'm also doing a separate, like, hey, I'm doing a webinar, and I'm running those concurrently rather than getting rid of the valuable content and just saying, come to my webinar, because I think people really do know the deal with the webinar. Like, okay, she's doing a webinar, she's doing a teaching, she's going to ask me to buy something, blah, blah, blah. Right. So it's like, I call that out. Like, okay, we all know why we're here. It's a webinar. And tell you about my course. Love you to buy it. But if not, I want you to leave with good value. Mm-hmm. So I figured out if I do them a few 4, 5, 6 times a year, I don't have to do one every month. I can do one. I think this in 23, I have 5 webinars scheduled. Now they're going to be all different. Now I'm going to get to teach on different aspects of things. And then I will have that free, valuable content available and bring more people into my ecosystem. So I'm reinvigorated and re-excited about doing webinars.
I love that. And
did I answer the question, Lucas?
Yeah, you absolutely did. We weren't necessarily doing webinar type approach with East Partnership last year, but we were doing like a weekly live session to promote a friend of ours, Tom Moriarty, retired Coastie, fellow engineer type. His book, he had published a book on leadership, which, by the way, if you guys are looking for a great leadership book, check out Tom Moriarty's leadership book. It's fantastic. And we did a whole like live series on that. That was very popular because it was all focused on talking about and delivering a segment of the book. And the weekly pace worked for that particular audience. But that is not the same as doing a webinar.
No.
Right? Like that quarterly
content.
Webinar.
It's different kind of content.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wayne says, great book. It is a great book. And I just can't help but notice that oftentimes when people are first getting started with these types of things, and again, I see this with some course creation clients, is that they'll kind of take the expectations from one type of product with a similar format and paint it onto the other. And I think it's a little dangerous to do that. It's a little risky to do that because the webinar, like you said, I think the ideal webinar timing, at least in my industry, is quarterly. And the more people there are in that space doing something similar to you, the more you have to kind of stand out and differentiate by being yourself and giving people access to you. And the webinar is maybe not the place to do that every day or every week or every month, right? The webinar should be a little bit more special than that, especially if it's tied to a sale. And in the book that I'm getting ready to put out, I give very brief advice about not overselling, right? Like having too many sales throughout the year because people will just wait you out. Right.
Right. I do one sale a year and it's Black Friday. And then I do offer a special price for people who watch my webinar because I think that that's valuable. I think people appreciate a deal, right? So I offer a consideration for watching the webinar, but most people don't want to wait until Black Friday to buy everything. Some people are like, if I'm gonna save a little bit of money, but I'm gonna miss out on all this time my product could have been out there. I don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah. So I just, caution people who do frequent webinars from giving like you said, some people, the list can get fatigued. Yep. Well, they can get fatigued by sales too. And if you're always running a sale every month in a webinar, they're just going to wait you out, 4 weeks to come to your webinar, get that quick hit on the sale. And then it's going to be silence on the line for 2 or 3 weeks in your business while people wait you out for the next one. So,
that's right.
Yeah, you just got to be kind of careful with that. And I think the quarterly kind of helps manage a little bit of that risk. So, Honorée, we only have like 2 or 3 minutes left. Anything we're missing? Anything else? Am I missing anything else?
I don't think so. Maybe you could talk about, Lucas, how you welcome people who discover the webinar, right? So since yesterday I put it out, hey, I have this webinar that you can go watch, right? So now it's Evergreen. So I've downshifted from I'm doing a live webinar to now I have a webinar you can watch, a free webinar you can watch anytime. I would love your 2 cents on what you do with those people, right? You them and then what happens?
The ones in the learning management system, the ones
Yeah.
Great question. So you have a couple of options, but you do want to welcome them to this product in the system when they're enrolled, and you want to put either a welcome video or a welcome text that says, hey, here's a little background. I recorded this webinar and here was the topic and the audience was great. And the whole, maybe even if you're in a very creative space, there's absolutely value in putting a little story together for them, because people really enjoy that and it kind of draws them in a little bit. And then they get kind of excited to see the video. So you can be like, here's where I was in this product. We're getting ready to launch this brand new book, and I'm so excited to talk about it. And here we go. And you can do that in your welcome sequence, right? So if someone enrolls in the course, you can just have a welcome to your, here's your purchase is a traditional like post-purchase email, but you can actually create that welcome sequence in that email. Like, hey, give you some background. Here's your link to the asset. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to put that in a video in the course player. Or you can just put it in text in the course player. When people sign in to see it, they can see it there. The big thing is to also give them treatment on the back side of the webinar. If you're making any particular offers to people that have attended that Evergreen webinar, I like to give like a loyal learners discount on a product. I would just go ahead and put that at the tail end of the webinar video, and then set the webinar video as a prerequisite in this system. They only see that next offer if they've watched the video, right? So if they just log in and they don't really do anything, like, I want them to be incentivized to watch the video. So that's something you can do.
So many ninja tips, Lucas. Sometimes we don't even realize the question we ask has so much gold on the other side of it, right? I was just expecting you to say, yeah, export those to your email system and send them a follow-up email and, wish them a very nice day. But you just gave me a couple of things that I will consider doing. I will do. Holly will be so excited.
She's like, get Lucas to stop talking.
Lucas, zipit.com. All right. Thank you, Lucas. That was really valuable. I will have to come with other questions. Is that Jen who gave us the link to the leadership book?
I think.
On Amazon?
I think so.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, so if you guys are on Facebook, you can click on the link right there in the comment and you'll see it yourself. I can't click on the link and make sure that's where it goes. So, hey, if that link goes somewhere you don't want to be.
Not us. We didn't do it.
Waiving all liability.
That's right. Waiving all liability. But I like that too. I wrote that down. Loyal learners discount. I love that. A loyal learner.
Yeah, that's kind of my jam inside my system. So only people that actually know that exists are people that are inside my courses. Except for now, the whole world knows. Honorée.
Yes.
Shameless plug for your webinar, if you could just remind people what the topic was about. It was about marketing, your book, right?
Yes, sell more books starting today. And in it, I promise to teach people how to think about book marketing, to teach at least 3 ways to sell more books today,
Right.
and how to fall in love with your book marketing so you do it forever. And I actually provided 6 tips for how to sell more books today. So you can find that. I'm not sure where. I'm sure it'll be in the show notes, right, Lucas? There will be a link to the webinar.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes. But if you guys go to Honoree's website, all of her products are located on honoreecorder.com, and she puts links to her training products there as well, so you can kind of get to her stuff through that route.
Yes.
And Jen said she had our back. She did test the link. She's good. Thanks, Jen. We appreciate that. All right, guys. Well, we have to shuttle Honorée off to a very important obligation, and life must move on. You guys all have to go out there and seize the day, get all the great stuff done.
Seize the day, write your book, publish your course, and have a great day, and eat tacos.
That's right. Okay. All the tacos. It's a Taco Thursday. It's a new thing.
Well, it's actually National Pizza Day. Yeah, I've gotten 6 different emails from all the different pizza places. It's National Pizza Day, and it's I don't have a meal in my future for a while, so I don't know what I'm going to do.
Panic. That's what you do on National Pizza Day when you can't eat panic.
That's right. That's right. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Have a good one.